is to help you live with more passion, love with more purpose, and lead an overcoming life. When I was a little girl, I loved being at my grandmother's house. She was such a good cook, and she would host us for all the big celebrations like Christmas or Easter. And oh, I loved her cooking. She would make everything homemade, the pies. She would even butcher the chicken and make roll out the chicken noodles. I mean, she was this amazing Mennonite cook. But one of the things I like to do in the afternoons after we had feasted is to go outside and play with my cousins. And along her fence row, she had grapes, the Concord grapes. I remember taking a hold of these grapes and putting the lush, the sweet, sour fruit into my mouth. And there is nothing like it to be outside with the sun shining and the breeze blowing and tasting the sweetness of that fruit. This picture of the grapevine and grapes, it was part of the life that Jesus had with his disciples. Throughout the Old Testament and New Testament, there is the picture of the grapevine and the fruitfulness. So John 15 is one of my favorite passages, and this is written in the upper room discourse when Jesus is preparing his disciples for the fact that he's about to be crucified. And so he's speaking to them very intimate words, preparing them for the future. Jesus said this, "I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that bear fruit, so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me." What a picture. Jesus declaring that he's the vine and that the Father is the gardener. And for us as branches, we are totally dependent on being connected to the vine, of abiding in the vine, of remaining in Jesus. That we can be fruitful, but only in Jesus. Jesus continued when he said, "Yes, I am the true vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples." This brings great glory to God the Father. This was one of the scriptures that I memorized as a young teenage girl coming to know Jesus. That aspect of I can do nothing apart from him. Boy, isn't that true? And one of the things I want to remind us and some of you as listeners are participating in the 40-day fast, the Jesus fast. And one of the things I want to remind you of is the fact that, one, you can't do anything apart from the vine, but also that your job is not so much about bearing fruit, but your primary focus is to abide in Jesus. And if you abide in Jesus, you will bear fruit. Now, there'll be seasons when everything you do, it's just fruitful and lush. And then there will be other seasons where the gardener will look at how much fruit you had because you had much fruit, and he will go and prune those very branches that you have been fruitful in. He'll cut you back. He'll cut it down. And he does this not because you haven't been fruitful in the past, but he does it with a promise that you've bore fruit, and now he wants you to bear a super abundant fruit. So, my friend, if you've been feeling pruned back, if you've been feeling like there are certain things in your life that seem to be pruned by the Father, I want to encourage you to rest in him. Let that revival of your expectancy, surrender, and trust fill your heart as you fall in love with Jesus. And as you trust him, you will bear much fruit in the kingdom. Well, if you are desiring to bear more fruit in the kingdom, one step could be just drawing closer to Jesus. If you draw closer to him, he will draw closer to you. You can download my free guide, 5 Steps of Grace, a journey guide to freedom, to start your journey of greater intimacy with Jesus today.